Tiger fans, you're now tuned in to Tiger Rag Television, your source for the latest in LSU sports, in-depth game analysis, engaging interviews, and all things Tiger Nation. It's time to talk some LSU sports. Let's get ready for your Tiger Rag hosts, Jim Inkster, Chelsea Brumfield, Jeff Palermo, Ron Higgins, and Tyler Nunez.
Another LSU great joins the illustrious Heisman fraternity. Joe Burrow is officially the 2019 Heisman Trophy winner. Welcome to Tiger Rag Television. I'm Chelsea Brumfield, and we have a great show in store for y'all tonight. Two LSU greats sits down with us in studio, Ramsey Dardar and George Bevan. Jim Inkster is joining us in studio to talk about the great season the Tigers have been having, as well as their takes on Joe Burrow. But first, this week's Crossfire debate. The LSU Tigers have been on a roll, but on the wings of this historic season, F. King Alexander is making an exit. We sit down with LSU professor Kevin Cope to talk about that and a whole lot more. We'll be back right after this break.
Tiger Rag Crossfire.
I'm Jim Inkster, and welcome back to Tiger Rag Television. It's Crossfire time, and backed by popular demand, the former head of the LSU Faculty Senate, Dr. Kevin Cope. 10 years he was in charge of the Faculty Senate, 36, almost 37 years at Louisiana State University, and there's much to talk about, not only with Joe Burrow winning the Heisman Trophy, but oh, by the way, the President and Chancellor resigned last week. But what about Burrow? Does the faculty have as much enthusiasm for this as the public at large?
I think the faculty is actually grateful for anything that might draw attention to the university. It's just that, as always, we're wishing that it were something other than success on the gridiron.
Well, Joe Burrow winning the Heisman only happens once every 60 years, and I think you might have been 1 year old when Billy Cannon won?
Well, that might be, but remember, there are some things that happen infrequently that are not welcome, like plagues of locusts. On the other hand, once every 60 years, that's roughly equivalent to 2 orbits of the planet Saturn, so maybe that's noteworthy, at least in an astrological sense.
Well, as you can hear, Dr. Cope is a man of words, and he once worked a New York Times mini crossword puzzle in 38 seconds, and he is here to present his views on what's happening at the Old War School. The king, the president of the university, F. King Alexander, is on his way to Oregon to be the head man at Oregon State University. Any surprise?
No, this is no surprise because for a variety of reasons, the average lifespan of a system head in the United States is roughly 5 to 6 years. This is partly because the headhunter firms keep pushing in order to collect their commissions. It's partly because most university systems are so diverse they're ungovernable. And it's also because those who qualify as presidents of universities under the current system cannot possibly, no matter how good or bad they are, stay in control for very long, especially with the kinds of boards of supervisors we have in this state.
Last time it was a private search. We didn't know who the king's competitors were, and this time there's a call for openness. Will that happen?
I don't know whether it will happen or not, but we thank those of you who are in the Fourth Estate the last time around for suing the university in order to get access to the names of the candidates. I will only point out that there is a deep contradiction between the university's status as a public university intended to promote inclusivity and to distribute knowledge and the reclusive, secretive, mysterious way in which presidential searches are done. One has to wonder, what are these folks upstairs so afraid of with regard to releasing information?
Well, when I was a freshman at LSU in the year of 1978, the student body president was a fellow named Jay Darden, and he was also on the LSU Board of Supervisors. Now, there is talk that he may be the successor to King Alexander. He would be somewhat of an exotic choice, wouldn't he?
Well, I think the problem is that he's not exotic. Now, Jay Darden is an honorable person and has occasionally even made outreaches to the faculty. He showed up at one of our faculty meetings a couple of years ago. However, on the other hand, what's really shocking about this is the way that the minute that the resignation of King came on the radar screen, instantly people began asking, who is it that has lived here within a 10-mile radius, or who might be here right now within a 10-mile radius, who could be the head of the system. There are 49 other states, and according to Wikipedia, that great source of information, 194 other nations. Is there nobody in that mass of humanity who might qualify as a reasonable candidate that could bring some outside influence, some favorable new ideas?
This is not new, though. I recall when the athletic director's job was open, and the two finalists were Skip Bertman and Doug Morrow, and they were not far away. They were within a stone's throw, literally, of the campus.
Well, Jim, you have once again committed the error of being a nice guy and treating these events respectfully. Again, both of those gentlemen have had good records. They've done exceedingly well in their careers. But once again, we have to ask, why are the people who select them so parochial, so local, so unimaginative when it comes to searching the world for all that the world has to offer?
Well, King Alexander came from California. Mark Emmert came from Connecticut. Most people believe he was a good chancellor of LSU. We hired the head of NASA, the man they call the astronaut, Sean O'Keefe. He came from far away, but he did not have the support of the faculty, primarily because he did not have that union card that you have, the PhD. Should that be a requirement?
Yes, I would say it should be a requirement, or the equivalent, perhaps a JD, or perhaps some other kind of, as we say, somewhat, unfortunately, a terminal degree. If only because the LSU system is unique in this state in being a preeminent international sort of research university, and we need to have people at the top who at least understand what it is that people in the rank and file, if the professoriate can be called the rank and file, probably not, but if it can be called the rank and file, who understand what those folks are doing. There's no other business in the world where a qualification is a disqualification, where if you know what you're doing, somehow you're out of the running.
Well, Jay Darden has a law degree. He does not have a PhD. Is that satisfactory?
Well, it's not the worst situation. It would be nice, perhaps, if he had some extrinsic experience, if he had some experience in administering a large university or a university of any kind. How do I know? He may come and turn out to be the great avatar that we've all been waiting for. But my point is that we need to assess his credentials, or those of the other candidates, Stephen Moray and Jim Henderson, against what is available and out there, and break out of this local mentality.
Okay, I think it's apparent that you'd like to see somebody come in from another place.
Well, again, I am open to surprise. I may be happily surprised that those fellows turn out to be the best candidates. By the way, I note that they're all fellows. We don't see any persons of color or any women in the mix, or any transgender persons. But who knows? Maybe they're good at what they're doing, but I seriously doubt that they would be the only finalists in an honest international sort of search.
Well, LSU is probably not going to be ahead of the pack and have a transgender president. Let's face it, that's not going to happen. It probably will be somebody local. And Ed Orgeron, he came from the staff when the biggest prize of all, the highest paid job in the state of Louisiana for a state employee, was open. So that worked out pretty well, didn't it?
Well, there again, you could say that demonstrates, we have to take into consideration some of the other people who have scored high in football competition and premium bowls, suggests that maybe just about anybody could coach football. And therefore, maybe we ought to try a kind of minimum wage person down there to see if the results are the same.
I don't think a minimum wage person would be competing for the national championship. Just my opinion, but he's done a pretty good job, I think, and probably will get a sizable pay raise. But the Board of Supervisors usually weighs in on these august matters, and the Board of Supervisors certainly will have input from the governor as to who the next chancellor and president is. Do you think that the board, now which is comprised mostly of appointees of John Bell Edwards, is up to the task?
The board is in a somewhat better configuration than it has been in the last several decades. However, the problem remains that, number one, the board is confused about how to go about a search. The first comments in the newspaper were, we've got to think about it, when in fact anyone who's worked in a university for any period of time would know what the best practices might be. And number two, there are simply not enough people on the board who have an academic or public service sort of connection. Look at the latest appointee to the Board of Regents, not the LSU board. A nice person, done philanthropic works, but no academic experience whatsoever. That's where the board board is really deficient.
Well, the head of the Board of Regents does not even have a college degree, so I don't know that it's any big deal if the LSU president doesn't have a PhD.
I'd put that together with your last question and suggest that he ought to coach football.
Well, the coach, Ed Orgeron, does have a college degree, and LSU, to my knowledge, has never had a football
Then
coach
maybe-
who did not have a
Maybe you ought to
college
switch roles,
degree.
and
There you go.
Ed Orgeron ought to be the chancellor.
Well, he could probably be a popular choice for most anything right now. But presidents and chancellors at LSU, Dr. Cope, often get involved in athletics by necessity. It's a big part of campus life. The public opinion of the electorate, in this case the Board of Supervisors and the people at large, is affected by how well the LSU football team does. And someone said things must have been really, really bad for King Alexander to leave with LSU on the brink of a football championship.
Or maybe King Alexander is clever enough that he decided to go out a winner, like Michael Jordan or some other such thing. But the question always arises, yes, that is true, that the fate of the university seems pretty clearly correlated with the success of the football team. But why is that? That is, if the university had fully educated or been allowed to fully educate the people, perhaps they wouldn't think that way.
Do you go to the games?
I have, over the course of my 36 years here, been probably to about 20 games.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
and some of them...
one every other year?
Yeah, well, that's enough. 9 hours to drive there, get in, drive back, that's too much for me.
Okay, well, Dr. Kevin Cope, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks for being
Always a pleasure.
in the crossfire, the articulate Kevin Cope, who's waiting to see who the next boss he'll have at Louisiana State University will be. We're back with more Tiger Rag Television in just a moment.
Welcome back to Tiger Rag Television. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of the Louisiana Radio Network.
Tiger Rag Six Pack.
It's time for the Tiger Rag Six Pack with myself and Tiger Rag editor Ron Higgins as we take a look at 6 questions that deal with LSU and the SEC. So question number 1, of course, we got to lead it off with Joe Burrow, the Heisman Trophy winner. Ron, you've been watching LSU football for a long time. Is Joe Burrow the greatest Tiger football player ever?
I think he's probably, yeah, he is. I mean, in our generation, everybody loved Billy Cannon. But in this generation, where it's a totally different media outlets, with everything's more immediate, you have the internet, all these media outlets, and everything gets out there quicker. I mean, I can tell you that, you know, most of the nation and most of Louisiana saw Burrow's Heisman speech, which brought everybody to tears, including, I mean, even myself a little bit when I was at the Heisman ceremony, I mean, covering the event. He has a way of touching everybody. If you, the fallout from that event is that he mentioned his hometown being impoverished and wasn't a great neighborhood where he came from. Already, the food bank in Athens, Ohio has over $150,000 worth of donations. And it's just a couple days after he made his speech. And they're grateful because that will bank them for years, and they've never had that before. And it kind of shows you the impact that one guy can have with a national platform if he's used right. And Joe Burrow, you know, look, he could not play it down in the pros, and he come back here and he could run for governor and win easy.
He certainly can. Now, he had one great season, and I would say his first year here was okay. Could you think of some LSU Tigers that had maybe 3 or 4 really good seasons, maybe a little bit more fuller of a career at LSU than him?
Well, you know, what Cannon was 3 years because they had freshman teams back then, and freshmen didn't play. Charles Alexander had his 2 really good years. His last 2 years were good. But it's hard to find somebody a good 3 or 4 years, especially as you get into the 90s, 80s, and 90s, where kids jump to the pros after basically 2 years. His 2-year impact has been tremendous. You know, last year, he was better than people probably expected. Still trying to learn a new offense, still trying to learn his teammates. But it kind of shows you, as Joe calls it, the perfect storm, where he was putting the right offense with the right players around him, and a coach who's willing to just kind of, you know, roll the dice with all of it.
All right, question number 2 for the Tiger Rag six-pack. The over-under for the semifinal game between the Tigers and Sooners, 75.5 points. I'm thinking over here, Ron. What about you?
Yeah, 75.5. They're probably looking at something like, I'd say over. I mean, I'm probably thinking just a little bit over that. I'm thinking it could be like a 45-35 game or something like that. I still think it'll be a 10 to 14 point game. And it's funny how I think Vegas says LSU is a 13-point favorite at this point. It's kind of funny when you look at that right now. You think that's just crazy, and then on the night of December 28th, and look at the scoreboard, you go, wow, it really did work out that way. Vegas has a way of doing that.
They certainly do. All right, question number 3. Apparently, Dave Aranda talked to UNLV about their head coaching job. How much longer do you see Dave Aranda at LSU, Ron?
I could see him here one more year. I think Dave needs to wait for a better head coaching job than UNLV. I could see the advantages of that job. They're going to play in the new Raiders Stadium out there, which is magnificent. But you have to have a really good recruiting area and guys who really want to go there. And it's pretty tough to recruit to UNLV, even though it is in Vegas. Not a great recruiting area in Nevada or the surrounding states. And as a head coach, when you step into a situation, you want to be in a place where you feel like there's a good recruiting area around you, you have the facilities, and you have some tradition. I think Dave needs to wait for that.
Question number 4 for the Tiger Rag six-pack. Will Lane Kiffin work at Ole Miss in your mind?
Oh my God, Lane Kiffin, Ole Miss. Oh my! If you put Lane Kiffin and put him in a white dress shirt and a little red bow tie, he would fit in an Ole Miss frat perfectly. Perfectly. He'd have like a little flask inside his jacket. It's a curious hire. It's one of those hires I think you make. It's like a wow hire. I don't know if Lane Kiffin can recruit to Oxford, Mississippi. It's a hard place to recruit to. We've discussed Mississippi before. I don't want to take the whole state down again, 2 out of 3 weeks. It's a tough place to recruit to. If anybody could do it, Lane can. Now, he's got to do it without, breaking NCAA rules, which at Tennessee he just really didn't really care about, and without insulting a whole bunch of people, which at Tennessee he really didn't care about. And I'm interested to see how SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey handles Kiffin, because Mike Sly really didn't know how to ride that bucking Bronco.
All right, we got a couple more quick questions to get to here on the Tiger Rag six-pack. Jalen Hurts, over or under as far as total yards in the game, 350. What do you think, Ron?
Under.
Under. Okay, so that means the defense is playing pretty well. And then question number 6, LSU with the recruiting class. What do you think is the biggest impact of this incoming recruiting class?
Well, I think the biggest impact just has been LSU's offense this year, and it's a showcase for quarterbacks and wide receivers from around the nation to look and say, hey, I want to be in that thing. It started last summer. They got really good quarterbacks coming into summer camp. And once the offense went out there and was seen, it's on. And it's been easier for him to get quality quarterbacks to look at LSU and quality receivers, because if you're a receiver looking at that, you're thinking, man, that's fun. If you're a quarterback, that's fun. And that's why this year, that offense and the way Joe Burrow played was probably the most important year in LSU football in decades.
All right, that is it for the Tiger Rag six-pack. Ron Higgins, I'm Jeff Palermo. More of Tiger Rag Television after this.
I just want to thank God for my wife and my kids and my family for supporting me, man, for supporting me. I'm not crying on this TV to get no sympathy from nobody, because I did what I did.
Welcome back to Tiger Rag Television, and quite a treat in this holiday time to talk with an LSU great, a man who's led a life that is full of a lot of ups and downs. Ramsey Dardar, the man from Cecilia, born October 3, 1959, 28 days, exactly 4 weeks before Billy Cannon changed the college football world.
That's right.
And Billy Cannon won the Heisman. LSU has a Heisman Trophy winner now, and Joe Burrow, as a former Tiger, I'm sure you're excited, Ramsey.
Oh, very excited. Very excited, man. I tell you, I watched the Heisman ceremony, and Coach O brought tears to my eyes, man.
Really?
Oh, when Joe Burrow was talking to him and telling him what he done for him, and I watched Coach O, and I know Coach O real good because Coach O and I went to LSU at the same time, 1979. He only stayed 1 year.
He didn't stay a year. He stayed about a week.
Exactly. I wish he would have stayed, you know. But Coach O, man, he deserved everything he's getting, man. And Joe Burrow, I'll tell you, his parents, they're awesome, man. They're awesome. And I'll tell you, even before this year, last year, I had a kid that I would take to LSU all the time. And the first people he wanted to meet was Joe Burrow and the wide receiver Chase. And he actually told me and his father that those two guys were gonna, that Joe Burrow was gonna win the Heisman, that LSU was gonna win the national championship next year, and that Chase was gonna be the main man.
Wow.
And it's happening just like he said. He's number the 8-year-old kid.
Really?
That's
it's
right.
Unfolding exactly as this young man predicted it would. Now, Ramsey, you came in 79, same year as
That's right.
Coach O.
That's right.
And he hightailed it. You remember
Yeah,
it?
he hightailed. Yes, I remember him because we played a few games together, but it was JV ball.
Yeah.
Because the NCAA passed a rule that year that freshmen couldn't play, and so they started a little JV thing, and Coach O and I played a few games together.
Well, he played the same position as you
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
And Coach O projects as a big guy, and he is a big man, but he's about 6 feet tall, maybe.
Right.
And he's husky.
He's husky.
But when you were playing at about 280, solid muscle. I think he might have been outclassed by Ramsey Darden.
I don't
Is that
know
why
about
you left
that.
LSU?
Maybe he was by Little Marshall and Bill Elko, them guys. Not me. I was a small guy.
280?
Oh, I wasn't 280 at LSU. I think I was around 265, 270.
Okay.
But I was pretty strong because every year I was in the battle for the strongest guy on the team. I was pretty good weightlifter.
Yeah. Strong
in
as
high
an ox.
school, I was a shot putter, so I pumped a lot of iron. And when I got to LSU, it didn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty strong for my size.
And that 82 team that you were on was one of the best LSU teams ever. We had Alan Risher on this program several weeks ago. And
Alan Risher.
yeah.
My quarterback.
Well, that team beat Florida, Florida State, and Alabama in the same season.
That's right.
And Bear Bryant made the comment that he never seen anything like you on that
Well,
day.
yeah, we had a pretty good game.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good game, pretty good day.
He decided
in
to retire.
Alabama. Yeah, he retired.
Because of Ramsey Darden.
I think we put him. I think we put him in retirement. No, but that was one of the best games, one of the best day of me playing football when we beat Alabama, because LSU had beat Alabama in what, 10, 11, 12 years.
11 years, yeah.
And man, I tell you,
12
that
years
day,
actually.
Oh, it was lovely.
Yeah.
It was lovely.
Well, and your high draft pick, go to the St. Louis Cardinals.
That's right.
And you probably would have had a great NFL career, but you had a substance abuse problem.
Yeah.
How much did that affect your play?
Oh, it affected my play tremendously. I went to a team. I thought I was going to get drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. I went to visit the Dallas Cowboys a few times, more than anybody else. And I ended up getting drafted by the Cardinals. And I don't want to put the Cardinals down, but the time I went to the Cardinals, there was not winning, and there was a lot of things going on, and I don't know what happened, man. I just went to partying with some of the guys, and there was a lot of guys on the team, and I'm not going to mention no names because it's no name, no blame, but there was a pretty much culture of partying when I got there.
With the St. Louis Cardinals?
With the St. Louis Cardinals, and I could just say that I guess I got addicted to crack cocaine, and at that time, in the early 80s, that's when the crack cocaine was just coming out. And I I lost myself, man. I lost myself. And it just, you know, and nothing I can do right now to change what happened, you know, back then. But I'm doing everything I can right now to try to make up to my family. I'm back with my wife. My wife is with me. I have a good relationship with my children, my grandchildren, and my closest of kin. So all I can say is that I took a wrong turn, man. You know what I'm saying? It's regretful. You know what I'm saying? I really think that if I'd have kept myself together, stayed away from the drugs, I think I would have been an all-pro. I really believe that, because when I went to St. Louis,
Well, you're not the only one who believes that. You had an amazing ability, but this enveloped your life, and
That's right.
And many people are certainly aware that
Right.
you spent, what, 17 years in prison?
19 years.
19 years in prison.
19 years and 8 months, man.
How did
tell
that
you.
affect you?
Man, you could put a dog in a cage for a couple of years and it'll turn mad. Just imagine a human being, man. Just imagine me being at Angola in one of the most dangerous prisons in the United States. And that's why I was sent at. With a nonviolent crime.
Mm-hmm.
Simple burglary, nonviolent. I never put my hand on nobody. Never robbed nobody. I did commit burglary, you know, which is terrible. But for the time that I received, 32 years for simple burglary. I was there with guys at Angola who had murder charges, all kind of bad charges, violent charges, and it was doing less time than me. And I don't understand, you know, what happened with that. I understand that I had a big name in the state of Louisiana, and I realized that I let a lot of kids down. I let a lot of people down, especially the people at LSU, like Coach Sam Nader, who stuck with me, Coach Dale Brown, who stuck with me till I got out, and still sticking with me today. You know, and some of the people, there's so many people, man, that I let down, that I don't know if I'll ever be able to make up to them the decisions I made in my life.
Did they come see you when you were in jail?
Oh yeah, Coach Brown came to see me, Coach Stovall came to see me. It's quite a few people that I wasn't really that close to when I was at LSU came to see me. You know, a lot of the guys, a lot of the coaches, they were gone. You know what I'm saying? But the ones like Coach Nader, Coach Dale Brown, he knew I had a good relationship with a lot of his players. You know, Howard Carter, Rudy Macklin, all them guys, we were all in the same dormitory. And Coach Brown treated me like a son. Coach Brown and it's just Coach Nader. Coach Nader,
Right.
They should have a statue of him at LSU, for real. People don't realize what this man do for LSU because he's not in the limelight.
Is there ever the temptation, Ramsey, to go back to drugs?
Oh, no, indeed. No, indeed. Let me tell you something. There's so many guys that I was locked up with that I communicate with now that's out of the street. And that's all I do. That's all I do is preach to them. You know what I'm saying? What it done to me. If it could do it to me, just imagine it could do it to anybody. Cause I had it all, man. I had it all. When I went to the Cardinals, man, there was nobody on that. And they had guys like Dan Dierdorf, who's a Hall of Famer. He couldn't block me.
Stop you.
Couldn't stop me, man. I'm being straight up honest. Couldn't stop me.
Yeah.
But the drugs, they did it to me.
Well, you've been out for a few years.
Yes, sir.
How has that odyssey been?
How has what?
How has that path in life been? For
Oh,
you?
it's been kind of rough. It's been rough because I suffer with diabetes, as I was telling you. It runs in the family. My mother passed from it. My sister died 2 weeks before I was released in 2017. She died from diabetes, complications of diabetes. I have 2 of my kids who's diabetics, so it's in the family, and I haven't been able. I'm blind in this eye right here because I had. I don't know if it happened in football or how it happened, but I had a detached retina, and they tried to fix it, but it was too far gone. So I'm blind in my right eye, and it seems like I asked for some eye drops before I came on this TV, because this eye right here is look like it's getting bad too. You know what I'm saying? So it's my life been. I just want to thank God for my wife and my kids and my family for supporting me, man. For supporting me. I'm not crying on this TV to get no sympathy from nobody, because I did what I did. You know what I'm saying? But I feel bad for the people I let down. My family and my friends. Coach Jenkins at LSU. I know this man loved me like a son, and I let him down. He was there for me when I got out. He came to my little celebration I had, my family had for me. And, you know, so many people I hurt, man, you know. And God knows I'm a good person. I know I'm a good person. I just, like I said, the drugs, man, I should have never went that route. But that's basically
you're
what did
a
it
brave
to me.
man to tell your story, and you're 60 years old. I think there's some gas in the tank. I can tell. A lot slimmer Ramsey Dardar now at
That's right.
age 60, and happy birthday to you. And let's talk again soon.
Yes,
It's
sir.
Very good.
Man,
Thank
I
you again.
appreciate you, man. Thank you. For
We'll be
having
back
me.
with more Tiger Rag Television after this message.
"50 years ago, the LSU Tigers were about to win a championship. The anchor of the defense, George Bevan, is in studio with Jim to talk all about it.
I'm Jim Inkster, and our guest is George Bevan, first team All-American 1969, and it was one of the great LSU football teams of all time, probably the most unheralded great team in the history of the school. This was a team that outscored its opponents by 25 points a game. That's the record. Now, this current team is 27 points ahead of the opponents on an average. They may end up breaking the record, but you averaged 34, you gave up 9, and you just didn't give up rushing touchdowns. That was an amazing defense that you were the spearhead for the entire defense. How did it all come together?
Well, it was a new defense that we put in the spring of 1968. We went from a 5-2 to a 4-3. It's a little bit different from all of us, but it made us able to attack the ball better. We had some unusually great young athletes that year. Tommy Casanova being probably the most remarkable
Sophomore,
one. Unbelievable. But we, and Coach McClendon always stacked the defense with somewhat of the better players, i.e. Tommy Casanova, not being able to run the ball is his career at LSU. But that's what it was, and we had a great spring. In fact, one of our assistant coaches, Dave McCarty, used to say they could never move the ball on the defense. And they were afraid they weren't going to score at all. And as you just said earlier, they had a very high average of scoring against the other teams. So.
Well, 50 years ago, you could have won the national title. You would have played Texas in the Cotton Bowl for the national title had you defeated Ole Miss. And I'm sure that game at Jackson, Mississippi eats at you all these years later.
Well, you said it right, Jim. It's the games you lose you remember.
Right.
The ones that feel like yesterday. The games you won, you think you're supposed to have won them, so you don't. But I heard Joe Namath say that in that SEC football series. And he, of course, played in multiple games as a college player, then a pro player also, winning the Super Bowl, winning the national championship at Alabama. But he says he remembers the games he lost more than he remembers the game he won.
And that was a 26-23 loss. You were ahead by 11 points, and Archie did his magic. Still had a chance to win after that, but you're shaking your head like you just can't believe it all these years later.
Well, yeah, I have kept up a relationship with him, and it started years ago after he had played pro football. But he came and spoke on to our team, our ex-athletes, for a Charlie McClendon Scholarship Fund. Mm-hmm. And he was so kind to do that. Well, when I saw him, I went and jumped on his back. And I said, I've been chasing you in my dream for over 20 years. Now I finally get to catch you. So, but he was a fine person, great athlete, and he was their Moses.
He was.
He made a good team, a great team.
And you, in '69, as mentioned, first team All-American, but you had injuries, particularly a ruptured Achilles tendon in 1967, your first varsity game, and it was difficult to come back from.
Well, it was my junior year. I played as a sophomore, and I got hurt my first game in the junior year and laid out all that year and had to miss the following year as a redshirt.
All right, I got you.
So I was very fortunate. I've only played in 2 years, and I never played in a bowl game. When I was a sophomore, our first team quarterback got hurt. Nelson Stokely was his name in '66, and we went 5-4-1.
I remember as a little guy.
We had a great defense, but we just couldn't overcome the loss of Nelson Stokely.
So it was '67. You were, of course, freshmen were not eligible in those years to play on the varsity.
We were not.
But you basically lost 2 years, and you came back and you were an All-American, and that's an amazing story.
Well, people didn't give up on me.
No, obviously not.
So.
And George I'm looking at you, you're well built, you've obviously worked hard to stay in shape, but you were playing linebacker as perhaps the best in the country at 185 pounds maybe?
Well, I'd start the year off at 190, and then we would go through it, you get a little tired, you didn't work out with weights as much as they do now, so everybody tended to lose a few pounds. Mm-hmm. But the biggest center I think I played against was like 240, and I played at 185, let's say. So it wasn't that big difference. Now the linemen are 380 and the linebackers are 230, 240. But
right. But you, as a young person here in Baton Rouge, got acquainted with a guy named Alvin Roy, who had that world-famous health studio on Oklahoma Street. How old were you when you walked in those?
I was 12 years old. I heard of a guy named Billy Cannon. And I wanted to be like Billy Cannon. So I rode my bike from Baton Rouge High School over towards LSU and asked to work out. And Alvin said it'd be $5 a week, and I didn't have $5. But he gave me a job folding towels, and I got to work out and met some unusual great athletes over those time frames.
Then had a great prep career.
I went to Baton Rouge High, and we won our state title our senior year and had some good teams. Yeah,
winning the state title. And along the way, you meet a guy named Terry Bradshaw. He was of the same vintage as you, and I think was recruited by LSU with you, wasn't he?
I had the privilege of got a call from one of the coaches. They said, Terry's been up here studying to pass the, I think it was ACT. I forgot what they called the exam then. And it was his last night, and they wanted him to relax. So we met down at the hotel, and Terry said, Coach, I said we could have anything we want to eat. So I'm a 20-year-old, 19-year-old guy. I'm thinking, man, what a steak will taste good. And Terry, being an aggressive, fun-loving guy, he grabs that menu and he orders 4 hamburgers, and he eats all 4 of them.
I bet.
But that was Terry Bradshaw.
Well, and of course, if he almost came to LSU, and if he had, he probably would have been the quarterback on that '69 team.
Probably. We had a great quarterback. We had a young man named Mike Hillman who
he was good.
I'd go with Mike because I know him. I loved him.
Yeah.
And of course, he wasn't a physical star.
In those days,
Terry
you know,
was.
Coach Mack, he had that 2-quarterback system, so Bradshaw would have been splitting time with Mike Hillman, I'm sure.
Well, Bert spent some time on the bench
He
until
did.
his junior year.
I know. And
he got
in fact,
to play.
one of the games his senior year he didn't start, and he said, I'm the only guy to be first team All-American and second team on my team. But you know, Bert, he was 21 when he left LSU. This guy Burrow's 23. He's
Yes.
older. Bert was an NFL Most Valuable Player when he was 25. As far as physical abilities, I don't think anybody equals what he had, even Bradshaw.
Well, the greatest quarterbacks that I've seen at LSU, and I go back, the first one I ever saw was Warren Rapp. They were quarterback with a linebacker mentality, just like Joe Burrow is.
Right.
I mean, that's, to me, makes a great quarterback, and it's their leadership skills. But they'll hit you like a linebacker will hit you. I mean, they're tough, so tough mentally.
You've lived in this town your whole life. You've been an LSU hero. Your father-in-law was athletic director. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Never. Never in my wildest dreams have I seen something come together. And it's been important for the ex-players because we've been welcomed back to the program over the last 3 years. It's been a long time since that, but we were able to go to practices. He has a walk down the Victory Hill. He comes to speak to us once a year as a special group of ex-athletes. So Coach O has really done a remarkable job in not only making it a great football team, but some in the little secondary, but bringing back all the players and making us feel at home.
And I can tell LSU means a whole lot to you.
I just heard one of your other guests, and I think same thing. LSU is a place you can always go home. And people love you and respect you.
You spent a lot of time on that campus, didn't you?
I did. Went to law school there after I got out. And got an undergraduate degree, and then got my Juris Doctorate.
And George is still doing his thing as a lawyer, so you're doing well in
Doing
life.
things are good.
As well in life as you were in football, and he was pretty good. George Bevan, one of the LSU greats, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. We'll be back with more Tiger Rag Television.
Predictions.
Time to make our picks in the two semifinal games. Jeff Palermo along with Tiger Rag editor Ron Higgins. Let's start off with Ohio State versus Clemson. Clemson is a 2-point favorite, Ron. Who do you like?
Well, you know, Ohio State they had 2 Heisman Trophy finalists. They have a coach who's been really good since Urban Meyer left. The guy taking over has been seamless. Clemson's angry. They think they've been disrespected. And of course, in these days in college athletics, a team that's disrespected always comes out and plays hard. Clemson's been on this venue before. I like Clemson.
I like Ohio State. I think they have more talent. I think Clemson's defense is a little bit down this year, and I think Ohio State can get the job done in Glendale, Arizona. All right, LSU, a 13-point favorite over Oklahoma. Who do you like, Ron?
All I know is that Kansas State, which is in the Liberty Bowl against Navy, beat Oklahoma. Kansas State. Now, this team is not a very good team. And Oklahoma lost to them. They're only lost. But I was trying to look at Oklahoma's stats. They fumble a lot. Hurts fumbles a lot. There's a concern there. I don't think they have the defense to hang with LSU, and I think LSU wins this one. Do they cover? It's close.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts could have a big game if he hangs on to the ball like you mentioned, Ron. I mean, you look at LSU had trouble defending quarterbacks that can run, and Jalen Hurts certainly can do that. I think that will help Oklahoma keep it close. But I still think LSU wins this game 17, 20 points, so I see them covering. It'll be interesting if it's LSU Clemson, LSU Ohio State. That will obviously be a great matchup January 13th in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. The one thing here is maybe Oklahoma comes in feeling a little disrespected or angry. They haven't won one of these games yet since they've been in the college football playoff, and they might have something to prove. What do you think about that angle, Ron?
Yeah, that'd be a good angle for them to cling to. They haven't won one of these things that they'd like to, but I think every year kind of stands on its own. You know, LSU's been really good at paying back people along the way this year for past losses. They haven't had a chance to pay Jalen Hurts back. He transferred. Well, now here's their chance. Here's a chance from a few years ago when LSU played a magnificent game in Tiger Stadium and still lost 10-0 because he made a run late in the game. This is LSU's chance to get one more payback on Jalen Hurts, and there's a lot of guys in LSU's defense remember that, and they want to win this game.
Ed Orgeron certainly hasn't forgotten that play, too. We'll take a break. More of Tiger Rag Television when we come back.
Thank you for joining us here at Tiger Rag Television. LSU Tigers are going to Atlanta, one game away from clinching it all on January 13th in New Orleans. Of course, we're going to be following them every step of the way because we are the Bible of LSU sports. It's been a historic season, and we appreciate y'all watching and following along with us. From our Tiger Rag family to yours, have a happy holidays, and we'll see you again real soon.